So in this course, I'm always looking to kind of, I guess, really keep a focus on the technology of the design. We're not talking really specifically about the art of architecture, but we're always having to touch back, going to the past. Obviously, we don't want to build historic details without understanding a bit of it. So I'm always trying to give a little bit of perspective. But most importantly in this course, I think we're dealing with technology, just the understanding of the technology and the utilization of it to help facilitate our creation of our future projects. But there's another kind of aspect that I want to bring into the course that I think is important because the rate of change of technology is so fast. So I'm putting it today under this heading of trajectory of technology. And it follows a bunch of paths. And a lot of these, I think, are what you would call convergent. Everything seems to be moving together. And one of those is this idea of the things we design digitally having an existence both in the real world and then still as an artifact in the digital world. And no idea which way this is going. I don't think a lot of people are, a lot of people have ideas about it, but we're all on the ride together, so to speak. So there are this idea brought up before, this concept of digital twins. And it would be easy for us to assume that we're already making digital twins. We make a model of a building, and then the building gets built. But the concept of a digital twin goes a bit deeper than that. One of them is first that we understand that the model we make may not be the model that's actually constructed. There may be variations by the time it gets built. And so for it to be a true digital twin, we have to go back and validate that the design is exactly as it's drawn in the digital model. And then we all need the understanding that these assets will be carried forward in perpetuity, or for at least the life cycle of the building, helping us to glean information. But also it could be the idea of sharing experiences. For instance, you could, if you had a digital twin of a building, you could have this idea of meetings that happen in virtual spaces where people would be physically both in the space and then also in the digital, what we would call now the Metaverse space. And I'm always thinking that this is maybe a bit ahead. Maybe I shouldn't be talking about these things. And I was totally prepared to take this first, the slide that's on the right here, and toss it and leave the slide out completely until I saw this CBS News article in my feed about companies racing to build digital twins in the Metaverse. So the Metaverse is this shared digital universe that people are like Facebook, by renaming itself Meta and looking at a goal of being a strong player in the Metaverse in the future. Many companies are looking to participate in this. And so if you click down through this, which I hope you would, you can see that there are large companies, Coca-Cola, NASCAR, Epic Games, and NVIDIA, getting involved with it. These will play out in things like scenes where we can buy and purchase and experience furniture in these kind of metaverse markets. We can play games in them. We can experience the factory floor. We could imagine training people to build cars in a digital twin of an actual factory before they actually entered that factory. So those are just kind of the low-hanging fruit of what's going on in this concept of the metaverse. And this whole idea of moving more and more of our human experience into the metaverse is both intriguing and maybe disconcerting at the same time. And so I'm really holding off judgment on what's going on here. I'm really trying to get us introduced to this so that we have a feeling for how we relate as architects to, I guess, the coming changes in our society and the way we think about these kind of virtual experiences. And we're already starting to participate in those because we're already building and modeling in these digital BIM environments. Revit is our digital introduction into the what could be the pipeline of this metaverse. And so with that idea, the pipeline of the metaverse, there's some things that are happening that I think are so unusual to us as to kind of shake our foundations about the kind of work we do as designers. So, and one of these examples is the idea that video game production of creating these kind of urban environments are done now in what are called procedural ways. Lines of code are written to help us design buildings, to help not us, but video gamers to design buildings. And they're really becoming really powerful tools. And so on this next slide, I have the video of a piece of software that runs inside of Unreal Engine. Unreal Engine is a gaming engine that is the engine behind many of the popular games that you might play. And I'll just play a little bit of this video if I get on the right screen here. I want to make sure that, I hope that no sound is playing. And so this is, I'm going to pop up back a little bit here. I kind of stop here because this is one of those places where this idea, we've already experienced the idea of making these kind of windows. That idea, that reveal that I've talked about, how the window should set deeper into the brick. We'll do a little bit of that in our design module. But these kind of sensibilities are already happening in this kind of world that isn't being designed by architects. That's not to say an architect didn't have a hand in this, but this is not considered architectural work, so to speak. But you can see how wonderful the realism is in the quality of these kind of facades. And then the flexibility in being able to change features. And one of them that's really kind of fun or exciting is this idea of being able to portray wind. Wind and sound are things that exist in the gaming world that don't right now exist in our world of architectural design. Our designs are many times static in the real world. This is a level of detail, something actually a term that we're already familiar with, meaning that there's a high degree of resolution within the components that we make. And this is just a quick, almost seems in some ways magical, the quickness with which building facades can be rendered. And this is procedurally done, which means that everything is defined by math, numbers, and graphs and charts, so to speak. And you can see it quickly, and I'm sure this is sped up, hugely fast, but still it gives an overall idea about what's going on in the process of someone creating this type of architectural artifact to maybe exist in that metaverse that we're talking about. And here we have a concept that we've already done. The idea that we're building a building mass and then generating, by clicking a button, a building facade to go along with it. In this case, many times more sophisticated than the kind of facades that we were doing. And I don't mean this as a detraction from what we do as architects. It's just that this is a co-world that's happening at the same time that we're existing in our architectural universe, so to speak. So here we have a few of those digital procedural buildings placed in a urban facade. A lot of excitement about all the kind of materials that are available and the sense of realism that's created with the whole thing. And then they talk about, just the ways that these models can be manipulated, components can be changed. And these are pre-existing pieces of archetype, so to speak. So we're not talking about new designs, but I don't think it's really out of the realm to think that we couldn't procedurally be thinking about designs that haven't existed yet, so that the architect could be, in fact, designing the procedural components instead of the actual buildings. And I really don't know. I'm presenting that information to plant a seed in your head, to have that experience, to think about it as you're going through your projects. This is another cool feature, this idea of emissive interiors. We're going to do a little bit of this when we do PBR textures, physics-based rendering textures. The idea of being able to have lighting on the inside of our buildings to create that sense of realism. And then there's other tools within this, just the ability to create roads and other surfaces that are really cumbersome in the tools that we're currently using. So I don't know if we need to see this as a threat or just another universe that's developing, and at some point, where do our roads converge in this kind of future look at things? One thing to think about is that how do we value the design work we do? And I think this is one of the other points that I want to make in this comparison. So we saw all of those buildings being designed by somebody who's probably pretty skilled at using the software. But here it is. The software costs $190. It's used by people that are developing game engines to create these kind of facades. So it kind of sets or calibrates our idea of the value of design inside of this metaverse world. And we can use that as comparison to how we value design in the real world. So you could also see yourself in this future, participating in this future metaverse, and thinking about how we actually act as designers. And will we be writing code that creates design procedures to create our facades, and other people are manipulating them, just as we've seen? And if we don't do it, if we don't think that's our role, and we don't think we should be designing buildings this way, will others be doing it? And will that be something that affects our jobs as architects and how we're perceived as architects? And we'll pick up on the project we're going to do this week in the next clip.